On August 19th, I decided to buy my first Steam and make my first YouTube video with it. And today I'm gonna reveal how much I have made in Axie Infinity in the last 100 days. This video is gonna be divided into 4 main sections. The first one being how much I made myself, how many SLPs I've made from Arena and Adventure. Then I'm gonna move over how much I made from flipping Axies on the marketplace. Then how much I made from breeding, and finally how much you can make from scholars. So let's move over to the first section. But before we do that, I am running a giveaway for 2000 SLP total. 150 SLP will be given away every single day to one lucky winner announced on my Twitter and Discord if you just do the tasks right here on the giveaway. So there's going to be a link down in the description. Just follow the simple links. It takes a couple of minutes and then you will be considered for the giveaway. There's already 2000 entries, but you get up to 8 entries if you fill out all of these tasks. So starting off how much I made myself. Now this is going to be very hard to put a dollar value on it because I'm gonna be able to calculate how much SLP I have made, but I'm not gonna be able to refer back when exactly did I sell it and how much I spent on like breeding and stuff. So I'm just gonna count up all of the total SLP and try to make some sort of an average from the SLP over the last 100 days. It's probably gonna be around 6, 7, 8 cents, and so that's what we're gonna work with. So in order to calculate how much I have made, I had to go to my Ronin and then click on the Ronin Explorer tab and see every single transaction that has been made from the Ronin, double colon 000 all the way infinite zeros to my actual Ronin. That's the claiming tokens part. And then I noted all of those claims in my spreadsheet, and the grand total for the last 100 days from my own experience is 33,138 SLP, but I still do have another 5,305 SLP unclaimed. So the total is more like 38,000. So that's everything that I have made from playing myself. Now, I'm gonna mention right here that it wasn't all based off of 20 energy. I started off with Axie Infinity on 20 energy, but very quickly I did move over to 40 energy. And for the last 40 days, I have been playing with 60 energy. Now I have moved back to 40 energy again because it's really difficult to play with 60 energy, as it does take about 5 to 6 hours every single day. And with the YouTube growing, I don't really have time to play 6 hours every day of Axie Infinity, so I have given some of those Axies to my scholars, and I am now sitting on 40 energy, planning to move back down to 20 energy. So that number of SLP might be surprisingly high, but I have also been above 2000 MMR for the majority of my playtime. I very quickly moved up with my first team all the way to 2000 MMR and then changed my team multiple times on the journey just to stay above 2.2k MMR because that's where you make the most SLP. It's not the adventure, it's not the usual arena grind, it's what your MMR is, and you want to keep it above 2.2k so you receive maximum SLP awards, which is 21 SLP per win. And I had some days where I would be making like 800, 900 SLP in a day, but that's obviously very rare, and the average is more about 400-500 SLP per day. And one more thing that I wanted to mention is that I did change my team for the adventure a couple of times, so it's not all have been spent on the arena games. I did spend like maybe couple of days, I'd say about 20-25 of those days just spending all of my energy in adventure so that I could get through the adventure mode quickly. Unfortunately, I did make some mistakes along the way, selling the teams that already had some experience on them and then having to EXP them back again, so I did waste some SLP there, but not that big of a deal. So let's see how much is 38,000 SLP. At current value, it's about 1.5k USD. That is not a lot when you think about the SLP, how much I have spent on making SLP for the last 100 days. Like, it has been hours upon hours every single day, and 38,000 SLP is only 1.5k. But what you have to keep in mind is that SLP price right now is absolute dog shit. So what you need to consider is the average. Like, I started my journey with Axie Infinity in August. So in August, about the 18th or 19th, SLP was at 15 cents. Now it was casually decreasing all the way to 10 and 11 cents, and then it stabilized for 2 months at around 8 or 7 cents. So if I was to take out an average, I would be saying about 7.5 cents for the total of my SLP. Now it's very hard to put an exact figure on it because I don't know when I sold, and I also used some of that SLP for breeding. I used some of that SLP for giveaways, like 5k subs giveaway, 10k subs giveaway. I have given away plenty of SLP, so it's very hard to track. So that is very hard to track, but the total figure is 38,000 SLP that I have made myself, and if I had to assume, it would be around $2.8 thousand. That's where I'm gonna put it for the grand total, 2.8k from this section. So that's myself playing Axie Infinity. Next section that we have is flipping Axies on the marketplace. Now flipping Axies on the marketplace is insanely difficult because you need a lot of knowledge to know what Axies are going to be useful for the arena, which ones are correctly priced and which ones are underpriced, so that you can pick them up and then know that you can sell them for much more. And then you also have to take away the marketplace fee, which is 4.25%, and you have to be profitable after the sale and the marketplace fee. So it does take some time. I did already make a couple of flipping videos like this one or this one, and I do mention some of my best flips in there, and I also show some of my mistakes so that you don't make them. But this is my best flip right here. This is a Dusk with the maximum speed, so it has the eyes and the ears from an Aqua. It has 52 health, 50 speed, and it also has the Graveland, and it does disable your horn. It disables all of your melee cards. It has a speed down, and because it has 50 speed, if you speed a bird down, you're actually going to be going first. And it also has a stun. Obviously you don't have a zero cost, but this is an insanely good Axie, and I bought it for 0.1 ETH, not even 0.098 ETH, and then 9 days later I sell it for 0.35 Ethereum, as this was a virgin. This was an insane deal, 3.5x on just one flip in 9 days, about 1.5k profit from this flip. And I already mentioned it in my other videos, I'm not gonna milk it, but this was one of my best flips. And in total I have done 28 flips over the last 2 or 3 months, because I didn't start right away. I was gathering knowledge before I started buying and flipping. So over the last, let's say, 70-80 days I was flipping, and I have made 28 of those flips. The grand total for these flips are $3.6 thousand or 0.78 Ethereum, and that is post market fee. So that's post 4.25% that you have to pay whenever you sell an Axie. So considering that I only did 28 of those flips, that is an insanely good profit. That is more than I have made from playing Axie Infinity itself, and it has been only 28 flips. Now the current market conditions in Axie Infinity are quite good for flipping, because there's a lot of Axies that are selling for quite cheap. So if you have the money and if you have the patience and the knowledge about Axie Infinity, pursuing Axie flipping can be a very good venue for you to explore if you want to make some money and you don't really want to spend time playing the game itself. Next section that we have is breeding. Now breeding is a very difficult and touchy subject to be talking about publicly, because breeders don't really like talking about breeding, because you don't want to give people knowledge on what to breed, because if they start breeding it, there's going to be more of these Axies in the marketplace, there's going to be an inflation of these Axies, and then you're going to have to sell them for cheap. So breeders don't really like talking about it. I did some breeding in November as well as October. I have stopped it for December because the current market conditions are not the best for breeding in my opinion, and I did make some profit from it. Some of these Axies are for my scholars, some of them I have sold, but I did start with just 3 reptiles. Now those reptiles got progressively more mutations. I just wanted to breed pure reptiles, and this is one of the best breeds that I had. So I was breeding just pure reptiles, as you can see, 55 health, 40 speed, and this one had Croc, Tiny Turtle, Cerastis, and the mutation that I got was actually Graveland, and that increased the value by a lot. So you can see right here, I did sell it for 0.2 Ethereum, and then someone sold it for 0.2 again, and it's still a virgin, and you can see the parents right here. Someone's got Please Buy Me. But all of these have been bred 3 times, and you can see the genes that I have been breeding. Those were pure reptiles, and this one had Gravelant or R1, and this one did not have Gravelant. So I was very, very lucky to get one Gravelant reptile, and this was one of the best reptiles that I did breed. I sold it for about $850 at the time, and that breed cost me about $220 to make. So one breed, $600 profit. Obviously that's not how it's going to look for all of your breeds, but there is some good breeds that you can make. But the thing is, it does require an insane amount of knowledge, again, especially on the genes and the mutations that could be good for the arena. And then also what it requires is a crap ton of capital, because you need to buy 3 or 4 Axies to start the initial breed, then you need the SLP as well as the AXS to breed them, then you have to wait for the eggs to hatch, and then you might not be able to sell them straight away, because virgins usually sell for more and people don't really want to pay more, so they are just waiting for the prices to drop down, and you can struggle to sell those newly bred virgins. Like we've seen in season 19 at the start, bugs, pure bugs with 90% purity or above were selling like crazy for 0.2 Ethereum. So if you were lucky enough to purchase some before the season 19 start, you would be making a bank from it. But to round up this breeding section, I did make 5.1k in revenue from breeding. I did spend 3.5k on breeding fee, so that leaves us with 1.6k profit. But the thing is, there are still 3 scholars which are using some of my Axies that I have bred. So there's 1.6k profit, and there's still 5 Axies that are sitting there as unrealized gain, or I'm using them for passive income. If I was to sell them right now, my total profit would be at around 2.5k, something like that. It depends on the market conditions. So 2.5k breeding Axies for about 2 months, that is not bad. I did not go fully into them. I didn't breed anything specific. It was just pure reptiles that I was focusing on because they had pretty decent profit margin. So that's what I was breeding. I don't really do it anymore. I might jump back into it, but I did it for a bit, tested it out. I think the current market conditions are not that good to be breeding pures. Maybe something a little bit more specific is better, but I'm not really gonna do it anymore. And let's move over to the scholarships profit. Now the profit from scholars is insanely hard to calculate, and this is because I've already had a couple of scholars that have left, one scholar that I had to remove, and this all makes it very, very confusing. So what I'm gonna do is try to give you the best estimate that I'm making daily from the current scholars that I have. So the previous 3 sections, we can put a finger on it. I've made close to 3k from playing myself, I have made above 3k from flipping, and I've made like 2.5k from breeding. But the scholars are very, very hard to calculate, especially that SLP price fluctuates, and it's just in general a big mess. So currently I have 9 scholars under me, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's right, 9 scholars under me. Now the MMR varies. I usually have my top ones at around 1700 MMR. It's not great, but the teams that I did give them were in season 18 or in the off season, and I don't really have the capital to upgrade all of those teams. So as long as they're staying afloat, 1000 MMR, it's decent. And some of these scholars are averaging 150 or 200 SLP. Let's look at this one right here, which is a guy that has insanely cheap team. I have built a team for him for $480. You can see this right here. It's pure aquas, but they have twin tail instead of the Nemo tail, and he is at 1600 MMR with this team. He actually managed to hit 1700, and he's averaging about 200 SLP. All of my scholars get 50-50 split unless they are above 1500 MMR, or they had a better couple of days, couple of weeks, and they are increasing in that MMR. In that case, I give them a 60 to 40% split. So Caillou has actually got a split today, and he's sitting above 1500 MMR, so I am gonna update that to 60% for him. Some people say it's generous. I think it's just straight up fair that the scholars receive at least 50-50. So from these 9 scholars, you can see the average that they make. So about $6 or $7 from each scholar. So on average, I would say I'd say about 550 from each scholar that they are making, and then we have to divide it by 2 to get the true value for me. So if you jump into a calculator and assume that I make $5, some of them gonna be higher, like $7, $6, some of them are gonna be lower, so I think $5 per scholar is just fair to assume, and we times that by 9. That's not 9, 5 times 9, so that's $45, and then we have to divide it by 2 because 50% goes to the scholars and I keep 50% for myself. I'm actually not gonna times it by half, I'm gonna times it by 0.47 because some of these scholars get 60%, right? So I only get 40% for 2 or 3 of these scholars, so I'm not gonna get the full half, I'm gonna get a little bit less. Let's actually make it 0.45, so that's gonna be about $20 in passive income that I make from my scholars every single day. And if you times that by the claims period, which is 14 days, so I make about $300 per claim from my scholars. And if you want to times that by a whole month, that's going to be about $600, I'd assume, from my scholars, assuming that the price of SLP is at 4 cents, which obviously currently is quite crap, and it did another nosedive all the way to 4 cents. So if that goes back up to 7 or 8, where it was quite stable, we can assume that $1,000 from my scholars is gonna be quite decent for a month. And in the last video that I did, which was how much money I have made playing Axie Infinity for like 20 days or something like that, that was the last video, which did very well and people asked to do a second part. What I did not mention is how much I have spent on this game, and this is another thing that is very hard to put a finger on it. I did the calculation about 2 or 3 weeks ago before the marketplace kind of crashed, and I currently have about 44 Axies. But as you have seen, I do some breeding, I do some flipping, so all of these Axies are currently on sale, or I buy new ones, I do some swapping, flipping. There's a lot of things going on and it's very hard to keep track. If we pull out the good old calculator again, if you assume that all of my Axies are worth $220 per Axie, then you have $660 per team, and if you times that by 9, then you're gonna get $6,000, which I have spent on my scholars themselves, and that was before the market crashed. Now some of these Axies are gonna be much cheaper now. You can probably get them for $120, $150, like the Cayuse team that I have shown you, which is $500 for the whole team, but that is still not far off from the average, and I definitely would not sell these Axies in the current marketplace conditions. So I'm assuming at the price that I bought them, or at the price that I calculated 3 weeks ago before the market crash, or when they released like Land Gameplay 2. I'm not gonna sell when this has dipped. So I have spent about $6,500 for my scholars. Now when it comes to myself, I currently have about 17 Axies that I have myself. You can see one of my scholars has 10 because I did send them 7 of my Axies. So my account has another 17 Axies, some of which are a little bit more meta. So some of these Axies are worth $500, $600, $700, so it's very hard to assume, but there is another $6,000 or $7,000 in my personal Axies that I used to climb the leaderboard to $2,500 MMR, and I make videos from those Axies. So about $12,000 in my Axies that I have right now, for those of you that are wondering how much I have spent on this game. And the evidence that I have provided today might lead you to think that I have spent about $12,000 on this game and I barely break even, but that's not the whole story. I did withdraw some of that money. I obviously have spent some of that money on other games such as Titan Arena, or I have invested in other projects, and I also farm RON. You can see right here that I have farmed 50 RON from my AXS and Ethereum staking, and I have farmed another close to 30 from my SLP Ethereum staking. So I'm not really sure how much this is worth when it comes to dollars or the dollar value, but I am farming RON because I believe this is going to be the next big thing, the next big token that's going to explode when it comes to the Ronin network. So I am farming that, and I have put some money aside for this venture as well. So hopefully you have enjoyed this video, and it did tell you a little bit more on how much you can make from Axie Infinity from different sources, not just from playing the game. If you did enjoy it, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to my YouTube channel for daily Axie Infinity content, and I will see you in the next one.